Right, platinum subscribers, live watching. It's going to take about 20 minutes. We've got your questions. If you are watching or listening to this on your podcast app, this icebreaker will end after about 20 minutes. It will roll straight into the podcast proper with Karl. And the questions you're about to hear were submitted by the platinum subscribers for the podcast. If you're listening on your podcast app, this has been recorded the day before the London Marathon, of which this is the 170 odd marathon that Karl has done. You lost count?
Yeah, stopped counting a while back.
And the plan has been, your preparation plan has been slightly sabotaged by the fact that the hotels cancelled the places because they think they've clocked on to London Marathon weekend.
I booked a place a while back, and clearly they've catched on that it's...
How is that going to impact your sleep in the morning?
Well, I've got to drive down now in the morning, which is an extra 2 hours less sleep that I'm going to have, which, I mean, it's no biggie, but I could have done without it.
I'm sure you'll be fine, mate. I'm sure you'll be fine. Okay, let's get into the questions. All right, question number 1 from Coke, we shall refer to him as. Are the politicians... Let's move straight into deep one here, mate. Deep one. Saturday morning, we've got a coffee, we're chilling out, and Coke throws this in. Are the politicians that sent you to war good people who did so with good intent? If not, how does this affect your view of Iraq and Afghanistan with all of the suffering caused? Happy Saturday, Karl.
Deep, straight in. I'm going to be a bit on the fence with this question, not because like I want to or I'm politically aligned or anything like that, but when I joined the military, I did not, to be completely frank, have any idea about the political issues behind it. I was 17 years old. You know, you don't think of that sort of stuff when you join the military at that age. I purely wanted to follow in the steps of my grandmother. She served.
Your grandmother?
Grandmother.
Wow.
Yeah, she paved the way to break the mold from the council estate sort of working class lifestyle that our family had. So I wanted to do the same as her. You know, I quit my factory job because I had no grades from school and I was working from 15. And I just wanted to go out and have adventure, like she explained it to me. Politics never came into it. And then when I went to Iraq, growing up from a council estate, it was mega. It was proper adventure. Only when I look back now, was politicians' intentions good? I mean, on the face of it, probably not, But we went. As a private soldier, that was way above my head and way above my thinking, and I've always remained ignorant of the fact now. But I went in there with the best intentions, thinking that I was going to help people and have adventure at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's most people, right? And and also maybe because of a lack of options.
Oh, 100% lack of options. Yeah, yeah. But that style of thinking was completely unknown to me when I joined.
That's I think that's a good way to have it as well. I think you get much less people join up if they started questioning.
Yeah.
At that age, I mean, whether you think, even when you think they join the military or not, at that age, do you really need to be questioning politics at 16, 17, 18?
Yeah.
Maybe you should. I don't. Maybe you wouldn't be in this mess, you could call it, at the moment if we were more aware when we were younger. But
I mean, especially the infantry, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, question number 2. Are you a better person for joining the military and experiencing combat?
I think I am. For the experiences that I've had, it's the military set the foundations. I always believe that. I know I got injured eventually, but if say take the military out of it and I suffered that injury, I don't think I'd have been able to have coped with it as well as I did because of what I learned going through training in the army. So just having that perseverance, being able to look at it as a challenge and then trying to overcome that challenge. I wouldn't have had that way and mindset if I hadn't been in the military. So 100%, I definitely think that what the military gave me in my short service was, fundamental to my outlook now and to my recovery.
Yeah, I was the previous guest I was talking to about this a bootneck, a guy called Ollie Osborne runs Warrior Wellness coaching and performance coaching basically. Uh, and we sort of touched on the same subject, and that is you get used to dealing with hardship, and it makes you more resilient. And I think over time, for a lot of people, of certain people, it then changes, as you mentioned there, it changes the way you frame a problem in your mind. You change it from um, if you're in victim mentality mode,
Yeah,
oh, poor me, I'm experiencing this really hard thing. It changes to, oh, I'm in this situation. How can I maximize my output?
yeah,
How can I maintain like being a positive impact on society, for example? How can I maintain feeling like I have value in the world?
yeah,
You spin it round, but I don't think you can do that second thing unless you're used to dealing with resilience and hardship.
yeah,
Right? And
definitely.
people who don't deal with it on a daily basis or regularly aren't able to cope with shit times when they happen.
No, I mean you go from waiting for someone to help you to realizing that you got a problem right there in front of you. Why don't you try and work it out yourself?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so would it follow then? This is part two of that question.
Mm.
Would it follow that the average military member who's been in combat or not is better than the average civilian?
I mean that's yeah, that's trying to almost put words in my mouth. That is, I'm gonna again the entire human race. It's a broad spectrum, isn't it? You know, there's the civilians who are absolutely amazing at what they do. You know, to say that someone's been in combat, are they better than the average sort of person? It depends what that person who's been into combat is going off and doing with their lives, isn't it? It's I think it's a bit unfair to say we're better, we're um, sort of much higher, much sort of able than like the average sort of person because some of my best friends like they're incredible at what they do and they've never been in combat, they've never been in the military. But I do think it gives you, like we mentioned earlier, a different frame of mind. You've almost got more tools in your toolbox to be able to sort your life out because you've experienced really high pressurized environments and situations where at that moment in time it is literally life and death. So it gives you a bit of a better perspective on life.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's not a straightforward answer to that question,
Mm.
and it varies. But I mean, what I would say, I think is on average, it's probably three areas that you could probably on the balance of probability, a military person, let's say, let's bring it down a little bit. Ex-infantry, an ex-infantry person, or no, in fact, yeah, ex-military person
Yeah,
next to a civilian counterpart. Um, the balance of probability would say that the ex-military person is probably better. Is probably better at operating in a team, operating as a positive part of the team.
yeah,
Probably better, right? Is probably better, more resilient. It's probably better at dealing with pressure in a teamwork situation. And the third one is they're probably better at being self-motivated in that role, in
yeah,
their whatever their role may be.
yeah,
More committed to it, I think. And again, I say probably because it's not the same for everyone.
yeah.
I know some absolute morons I serve with. I know a lot of amazing
Mm.
people who aren't, much like yourself. So
Yeah,
um, yeah, good, tough question, guys.
it is.
Okay, question number three. If you could change what happened, sparing yourself the suffering, but meaning you wouldn't be the person you are now, would you change what happened?
Short answer, I wouldn't change a thing. What I have now, I have the most amazing son, a beautiful wife. I'd go through that all that suffering again and again, knowing that what I've got now is what I'll have at the end of it. The opportunities that have come to me because of being injured, that I've pushed myself towards and sort of embraced. I don't think I never would have had I not been injured. I've had some of the best experiences. I've got my pilot's license. For light aircraft. I've run many marathons, been able to see parts of the world that I never would have even considered, and just my general sort of outlook on life. Because what I experienced the most and what I felt the most when I was injured, when I was initially hit, was I didn't care what clothes I owned or, what cars I should be driving or anything like that. What really came into focus for me was how much time I had and how important it was. And then since that moment from being injured, I definitely endeavour to not let anything go to waste, as in time, because it's just so important, and it's the one thing we'll never get back.
I want to come back onto that on the podcast. That's all right. It's one of those. I completely understand what you're saying,
Mm.
and I agree with what you're saying. But it's one of those things that there's no way I can develop a level of understand the value of what you're saying because without
Yeah,
going through what you went through,
yeah,
you know. Uh, but I want to. I want to be like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
get it. I want to get it as much as you. It's like, fucking hell, man, yeah, yeah. That's so many people. So many
mm,
people. They just use their time so
yeah,
unwisely. Throw it down the, or they don't
yeah,
value, they don't cherish those moments with loved ones, with friends
yeah,
that are just, they're not getting anything from it. They're not producing anything from it. They're not getting money from that hour, a few hours they spend with grandparents, for example, or whatever.
yeah,
But they're getting stuff that is so much more valuable. And that's
exactly.
like personal interaction, experiences, insights, knowledge,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, and what put it so much into focus was when I was lying in a hospital bed, unable to move. You know, it was the inability to be able to do anything, and that really put it into focus. Then that did, because I was like, man, I wish I could have done this. And I was lying there thinking, am I ever going to be able to do it now? You know, go off and climb a mountain, or travel around the world, or like it felt like those opportunities were getting taken away from me in those really early days of recovery. So that's when the importance of time management became so vital,
Mm.
to my outlook and my recovery process. I just didn't want to let any moment go to waste.
We'll definitely go on to that. And I want to ask you about that recovery process. That's all right.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, question 4 from David. Having pushed your physical and mental limits in endurance challenges post recovery, how do you think the lessons you learned in the military, discipline, camaraderie, adaptability, for example, carry over into civilian life and personal growth?
Yeah, the like we mentioned earlier, those fundamental lessons that we learned from going through training in the military and working in a team environment, learning how to push yourself, learning how to be adaptable, was so important to doing these adventurous sort of challenges and just living your day to day life. I think they really have set the standard to how I want to live my life, because not everything always works out the way you want it to. Even in sort of like an endurance challenge, sometimes something just doesn't work. You know, climbing mountains, for example, sometimes nature takes over and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. But being able to manage expectations, being able to change your game plan if you need to, it's all really stemmed from these sort of basic but core skills that were learned from the military, and yeah, use them every day.
Yep. Question 5, I think it is. Your journey from sustaining life altering injuries in Iraq to becoming a motivational speaker and endurance athlete is nothing short of remarkable. Looking back, what was the turning point, mentally or emotionally, that transformed your recovery into a mission of purpose and service for others? That's a fucking great question.
That
Well
is
done, David.
that is really good. That is really good. Now, so for a few years after injury, I was very, very self-focused, which I mean, I needed to be. I really did, because I needed to pick myself up from the absolute bottom. I went from a really sort of highly responsible, really intense sort of job role to sitting around not even being able to feed myself because my hands were messed up. So I had to build myself back up. And during that time, I probably didn't give, the people who were helping me the sort of recognition that they really, truly deserved. And it was only till I got to a point where I could start functioning sort of as normal as possible, have as normal a life as possible that I could, did I really start to sort of understand and appreciate the help that I was given to get me to that point. And it was over like it was a period of time. It was dawning on me, like, these doctors and nurses and carers and physios and even the cleaners who came into my room in the hospital, family members, friends, every single person who's like been involved in my sort of recovery, no matter how big or small, has played some sort of part to get me to the position where I could just live a normal life. And understanding that made me think it's almost like I've been given that extra chance and I need to start giving back because I shouldn't be here. So get my ass off the sofa and let's start doing something and helping people.
Mm. Last question. You often spoke about the vital role tissue donors and medical staff played in your recovery, as you were just talking about.
Yeah.
In your experience, how do moments of vulnerability and the kindness of strangers shape a person's perspective on community gratitude and giving back?
Yeah, I mean, falling back on the last question, and when I started to understand and read through sort of like my medical notes, in when I was first injured, I was put into an induced coma for 10 days. And then I've gone back and read those notes, what happened. So I was
While you were under?
Yeah, while I was under.
Okay.
Got a copy of all my notes and everything. And so I was flown back from Iraq to Selly Oak before it got turned into the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. And I had 24-hour observation and care. And, my chances of survival dipped really low because burn injuries, over a third of my body was burnt. There's fluid loss, there's risk of infection, could go into a cardiac arrest. There's lots of issues. I was on ventilators and everything. But reading through those notes and people I had never met before, sat by my side and watched me. That I know it was part of their job, but we've all been on a job where are you really applying 100%, concentration? That those people did, and they were there when things weren't going great. Doctors and surgeons, they performed 12-hour operations on me in that 10-day coma. Operating for 12 hours, it blew my mind, like understanding the care that I had. And that made me think, uh, you know, I've got to give back to the hospital, to the community as a whole, because there's good people out there. Because like I said, it weren't just surgeons; it was everyone across the board. They played some sort of positive part of my life, and I had to give back.
Mm. Yeah, I can imagine it's a powerful thing to go through and read those notes and stuff when you're under and see all that effort. Yeah. Okay. That is the icebreaker done. So live streamers, we're going to take a 5-minute break. I'm going to refill my coffee. If you finish yours quick enough, Carl, I can refill yours. But don't get it down. You'll be pissing all the way through the podcast. And if you're listening to this on your podcast app, this episode's going to end. It's going to roll straight into the full podcast with Carl, where we're going to discuss a variety of things. So I know 2 of the main areas I want to come on to, but as you know, on the HR podcast, we'll come on to all sorts of other things. 2 of the things I definitely want to come on to is the high performance athlete aspect, 170 odd marathons. I really want to get into that, and also the recovery journey. From the moment you're in hospital to the moment you're out, and what that was like, and everything else we get on to. So 5-minute break. Coming back shortly. Out.